as a human, as a species evolving, do we want to evolve outwardly or inwardly, right? And that maybe that isn't the right word using evolve, but like, do we want to head out to the stars, expand our, the number of humans out there, therefore expanding, consciousness and our ability to acquisition information?
Welcome to the IMI Biotech Talks.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Ali Davis, and welcome to our Biotech Talks. Our goal of these talks discussions is to explore the biotech industry, certain inventions, the history, and to take a deeper look into what the future has stored for the biotech industry. On today's talk, I have Rourke Sylvain and Cameron West, and we are the founders of IMI. IMI stands for Integrated Molecular Innovations. It's a biotech startup that holds the vision of transforming the healthcare industry from reactive diagnostic to proactive monitoring. Our goal at IMI is to create a suite of sensors to empower people to monitor their health proactively and remotely. Rourke Sylvain is the CEO and founder and lead researcher for IMI's technology. He has dual bachelor's degrees in economic neuroscience with concentration in math and physics. Furthermore, he is finishing master's in biomedical engineering and data science. And currently, he is transferring into the PhD program at Michigan Tech University. We also have Cameron West. He is a graduate of Duke's Fuqua School of Business, where he received a master's of management. Cameron fulfills the duties of a chief operation officer and utilizes his experience in leadership skills in project management and business operation to facilitate IMI's growth. Welcome, everyone.
Beautiful intro, Ali. Beautiful. Man,
Yes, thank you.
You're a smooth guy.
How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm a little jittery. We'll see how this goes, I'm excited to get going on this journey with you boys and, pick your brains. Extract your insights.
A second.
Pick your brains. That's for sure.
Be careful. You might not know. You might not want to.
You might not like what you find.
Pandora's box.
Well, I see the poster behind you, so I love it.
Yeah.
Well, the reason of these discussion or talks that we're going to be recording is the long discussions that Rourke, Cameron, and I always have, and they're never recorded. But the amount of knowledge and the things that we go on is like, we feel like it needs to be recorded, so we started doing this. So over this talk, we're going to discuss a few things. We're going to discuss about the differences between medical devices and biotechnologies. We're going to talk about the technologies that were rolled out of the lab and just starting to hit the market. We're going to talk about technologies that we expect to come out of the market in the next 5 to 10 years, and how can we have a role and an impact in this field? How can we have positive impact? How can we be a part of this industry that works to better the human health? So,
All right, where do we start, moderator?
Well, we start with the differences between medical device and biotechnology. So when you hear medical device and you hear biotechnologies, what comes up to your mind? What do you think is the difference? Or is there a difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because originally I without having insight into biotechnology before, I was like, oh, it's some technology that has to do with biology, and it kind of has a generative, broad term. But, as I started getting down, deeper into, engineering fields and realizing that it seems like, biotechnology is specifically targeting, ways you could manipulate and leverage organisms to perform, what you want it to do, right? So like, for example, I came across the fact that one of the earliest biotechnologies or applications of biotechnologies was to brew alcohol, right? They used enzymes or
wine was the first use of biotechnology.
Little organisms into ferment, the yeast or used yeast to ferment, whatever wheat or grain or fruits to make alcohol so they could catch a buzz. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
What about medical devices? What do you think of medical devices?
Things used in hospitals and that doctors would use or surgeons or and it's kind of another generative or wider labeled term, but right? Like what the FDA says, like a medical device is something that's used, I guess that's more in vitro diagnostics. Let's say something that's used to diagnose a patient with something, right? But like it's used for medical purposes in the field of healthcare. Can they be both? Can biotechnology incorporate medical devices, or medical devices incorporate biotechnology?
Yeah, they definitely overlap and cross, because especially with the new materials and new technologies we come up with, we can now use biotechnology as an instrument for bettering the human health, or used in hospitals as well. So definitely, especially like in the newer age and with all these technologies, I can say we can, at some point they cross and they overlap. So in general, I mean, we'll come back to that, which is biotechnology can be defined as technology based on biology. Cellular and biomolecular process and harnesses are harnessed to develop technologies and products that improve the quality of our lives and health of our planet. So, a lot of biotechnologies is used in pharmaceuticals because of the DNA and manipulation of DNA, and a lot of that stuff that happens, whether upstream, downstream, all utilizes, microbiology, cells. So mainly, a lot of the biotechnology stuff is used in pharmaceuticals. A medical device can be instrument, apparatus, implement, machine, appliances, implant, reagent for in vitro uses, which is exactly what you said. It's software, material, or other similar or related articles intended by the manufacturers to be used alone or in combination for a medical device. So, I mean, you hit it right on. I mean, that was the exact definition. So,
I got you.
but the idea of them overlapping, I think it's more relevant nowadays, because they do overlap. Especially like, we always talk about biosensors. Biosensors utilize the idea of biotechnology, but they're also used as a medical device at some point. So, what do you think about that, and how do you see the progression of biosensors? What was it before, when somebody, let's say 10 years ago, they talked about biosensor? What did it mean, and what does it mean right now?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, it's just a way to acquisition biological information, right? And that could be, detecting certain cells, right? From tissue that's extracted, to detecting, chemical molecules that are associated with biological systems. Like, for example, glucose sensing was one of the earliest ones. Actually, I think oxygen sensing was the first official biosensor, where they could detect oxygen or levels or densities of oxygen inside the blood, or in volumes of blood. So it's another broad term, right? And it's weird sometimes, because really biosensors, from my perspective, are biochemical sensors, or sensors that sense molecules specifically, right? They in some way, can capture signals based on binding to or sensing from, like, fluorescence, the molecule itself. So, but there's other biosensors, like some of the wearables we see on the market today are detecting heart rate, blood pressure. There's some wearables that aren't FDA approved, but that can do ECG, right? Electrocardiography, right? So like the electrical currents from your muscle and your.
Are those considered sensors or biosensors?
They are considered wearable biosensors, but they are physical sensors, right? So you're detecting physical changes, right, versus like molecular changes or molecular species. So there still really isn't a clear separation of the two categories, but like generally it's, acquisitioning biological information, right, in some form that you're sensing biological differences or something that's affecting a biological system, you have the ability to sense it, right? And so like even like MRIs, right? They're medical devices, but they're sensing, what is it? It's like the location of hydrogen ions, and then based on its magnetism, and then you could detect like, tissue structure based on like manipulating, physical reality in some way, right? And like, but you're still sensing, the biological organism in some way. So like, is that a biosensor? I'm not sure. I don't know if it would be classified as that, because even though you're sensing you're imaging the human body or, some tissue. Is it considered biosensor? I'm not sure. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What about you, Cameron? Where are you at? What do you think when you think biosensor?
A quick comment and question of the data acquisition. You made a really good point that the sensors facilitate the data acquisition of biology. That's what a biosensor does. It's the combination of living organisms and human technology. So my question to you guys, this could be directed towards you both. I know that we've talked about this a little bit, but what would be the overall benefits of more data and just raw data acquisition? Because some of the feedback we've received has just been, what do you do with all this data?
It's a good question. Do you want to go for it, Rourke?
Yeah, I mean, I could give my opinion, right?
Yeah.
How do I want to formulate this or express this? Like, from time immemorial, right, we, in regards to our health, right, and our existence on the planet, we just kind of accepted the conditions that were given to us, and, that included our state of health. Like, if something infected us, got us sick, or we became ill in some other format, right? Whether we had cancer or we had infectious disease, or some organ system was failing on us, right? Throughout time, we would say, oh, it's it's a curse, or it's just part of life. You just kind of live, you die. But not until recently we started to say, okay, well, we can investigate using scientific method and scientific tools to realize that there's a system that we're made of, and we can target where our system is failing. But really, the only thing that allowed us to do that is certain tools, right? And the advancement of tools allowed us to have a more granular perspective on the state of our health. But really, not until recently could we really look into our health and find what was making us sick. But we're still in a culture, in a situation where we can't monitor our health proactively. We have to wait until we get sick, right? We get sick still, and then we go, okay, well, now I know that I can go to the doctor or the hospital, and they can, perform, medical procedures and protocols and standards to try to find out why I'm sick, and then they could diagnose me with some sickness, and then I'm supposed to follow, take a pharmaceutical or follow some regimen because that's going to make me healthier. But like day-to-day people existing, they don't have the tools to know what is wrong with them, right? Or even if they're feeling a little bit off that day, why they're feeling off that day. And, I often make the analogy or the comparison that we know more about the state of our cars, right, than we do about the health of our bodies. Like we have these metrics on the dashboard that tell us, what the gas level is, the oil, when we're supposed to change our oil, the amount of air in our tires, all these signals that say, okay, we can maintenance this regularly to keep the state of the car in, good condition. But we don't have those tools to extract insights and information about the state of our health, right? We have to wait to get sick and then have to go spend thousands of dollars to, depending on your insurance levels, to go find out why you're sick and then, pay however much more to take a pill. Right? Whereas, like, if you could incorporate tools that gave you insights daily about your health, you could modulate the state of your health subtly when you start to trend negatively, and you could remedy illnesses without having to take a pharmaceutical. It's like I think about, like, if you ignore your oil levels and you just like, I'll just ignore it until your engine seizes, right? Now you got to spend thousands of dollars to get your either your engine changed or the car's total. And that's like our healthcare system. We wait until we feel sick, and then we go in there, and pay thousands of dollars. Should I get better?
It's too late. It's probably
The damage is
like
already
at
done,
stage 2. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, that's like your answer is more fundamentally. I want to answer it in a more technical way. What are we going to do with all these data? Maybe 10 years ago, it would be like, that's a lot of data. It's going to be hard to figure out any patterns. But now we have AI. And with the power of AI, you can run all these data over and over and over, and you can categorize it, and you can predict things to a certain extent.
Well, I would take a
certain foods, certain ingredients.
Yeah, I would take a step back, right? Because we have to look at like the trend of human history, right? We only are as good as the tools we have, and those tools extract information in some way, right? So we use these tools, right, to like leverage reality in some way or extract a better method, which is in the form of more information, and then we can utilize that information and improve upon it. But we haven't had tools, to help us have insights into our health, and we still really don't, And so before we can like talk about what we're going to do with all this data, right, is to understand like what tools are being developed that will allow us to have insights and have accumulation of this data. And then once we can regularly accumulate large amounts of data continuously, then we can start to say, okay, how can we use this data to improve the health of people? And so that's what kind of comes back to like what biosensors are, right? So, we talked about, glucose sensors is one of the earliest ones, right? Oxygen sensor might have been the first, but right, glucose sensing was important, right? Our patients, dropped some blood onto a test strip, and then somehow, right, it tells you, quantifies you, how much glucose is in that drop of blood, right? Well, how does it do that, right? So it uses an enzyme that's immobilized on the test strip, right? It oxidates the glucose molecule, which releases electrons and then allows an electron transfer to the electrode, right? So like the electrode, like, is just like a carbon material that you apply electricity to it, which is electrons that flow through the test strip continuously. Well, when glucose is present on that electrode, a higher current density emerges. So you can detect, okay, based on changes in electron flow on the electrode, is concurrent or is correlative, causative to the amount of glucose in the solution, right? So like that's just like the basics of how a test strip biosensor works. And the framework for electrochemical biosensors, so those test strips you see that give you a number back, like that's the basics of everything. Like the basic foundation is that we're just detecting changes in electron density that flows through that electrode. But as we, over the last 20 years, we've seen, okay, well, now there's these things that effectively, like, we could wear on a wrist that detect physical signal changes, right? There are different sensors, and we can get into the engineering applications and the processes of how those things are done. But we have different ways to monitor biological systems using physical sensors. But, like, there's also this progression and what I think will be a breakthrough into the market of biochemical sensors, right? So sensors that are detecting molecules in what I just expressed, but continuously, and you can wear them. So one of the good first examples is continuous glucose monitors, right? Those things that, kind of plug into your skin that you wear for, 10 days or so, and it tells you your glucose levels. Well, that was a huge breakthrough. And I don't know, maybe it didn't get as much attention. People do know about it, but like the window or the access that's going to be released by having these wearables will be profound on the healthcare system, because now we finally have tools that allow us to continuously monitor our health, right? Even though it's the very beginning, because it's only glucose that's on the market right now, there will be tools and devices that allow us to monitor all our molecular metrics, the things that are in our blood versus the things that are in our interstitial fluid or sweat, right? I mean, there was talks of developing next generation sports gear, right? Like, Under Armour has like their shirts, and, there's different athletic gear out there but integrating physical and biochemical sensors into the fabric of the clothing so that you can sense your sweat, your heart rate, your oxygen levels, amongst an array of different signals, and then interoperate them, right? Put them all together to give you like a profile of what your health state is, right? Like, and what you need to put into your body based on what you're, expelling effectively, right? So like now we can create like a closed loop system that's far more efficient than what we're currently doing, right? When we feel hungry, we just consume, right? I don't know. I just kind of rambled on for a bit there, but like,
I was, yep. We're getting off track here. So,
right. Well, you asked about what we can do with the data, right? And I was like, well, first we need to know what tools are out there, right? Because, without knowing like how we're acquiring this data, right? Because it's like the acquisition of information is the first step. The second step is what do we do with the information? And that's a great question because we've never had access to this information. It's a new field, right? It's a new orchard we're going to be exploring, right? And there's going to be all these low-hanging fruits that we'll be able to pluck because we have new tools, and
especially, yes, with all these technologies now, a lot of these sensors can be used in different applications. So now everything could become a sensor, any device that we use every day can be a sensor. We talked about the EKG system that was used in cars. So, your steering wheel can, do some sensors, like the same usage in the wearables with like your watches and stuff like that. So we are coming to an age where everything you use every day could be a sensor that would help you to proactively monitor your health and what's going on by doing your own thing. You don't have to go to a lab and test. You don't have to take time of your day and keep take any extra effort. You're doing what you're doing already, but you have an extra screen that tells you what's going on. I think that's the revolution in the biotech industry, and that's we're grateful for all these technology that's happening, and that also goes back to the advances in nanotechnologies, because a lot of people don't understand how our big computers 10 years ago became a flat screen, and how were we able to do that? And that, I think, goes back to nanotechnologies and how we were able to create those thousands of tiny mirrors and pixels that can function in so many different ways to allow us to have the flat screen or the very slim iPhones. We can talk about that more later, but that's one of the aspects that allowed us to get to this, very tiny devices, very smart, intelligent, tiny devices that we can plug in and everything and put it as an application in so many different devices. So, we learned that last semester with Dr. Rao in nanotechnology class, which was great.
I've got another big question for you guys. Let me just pop in here if I get a minute. So Rourke, in the middle of your ramblings, which I enjoyed, by the way, you made a point that we know more about the state of our car than we do the state of our body. At the same token, we now have more technology in our cars than in the Apollo 11, which is something that, of course, brought us to the moon. So the question to you guys is, are we using today's technology to the fullest extent? And if we're not, what are its limitations? What's holding us back?
Yeah, that's
regulations.
Regulations definitely. But, I found it's a great question, and I have, of course, these are all opinions, but like something that I've been thinking about a lot recently is like, so where do our breakthrough technologies usually come from, right? Like a lot of times it's from academic researchers, people that are doing research in the lab, cutting edge because that's their job, right? And then companies will partner with university researchers to collaborate and integrate a technology into the company, right? Of course, you have companies that have their own R&D and have great researchers that are pushing the forefront. But a lot of times, it's the people in academia, the people that are at universities that are getting funded by the government that are doing incredible things to make to push the field forward, right? And
absolutely.
And there's some and that's how it was, right? for a long time, but something I'm seeing, and this is probably common knowledge, but people in universities, professors, academics, researchers, right? They spent 10 years plus studying one thing, right? So they have a deep or a depth of knowledge in this domain, right? Superior to all else, but they only focus there. And there isn't a lot of cross communication between different departments or different fields of study. So you have this collective people, right, that are bouncing these ideas off each other within a domain, a field of study, right? But there isn't, a lot of people that are chemical engineers that then go to electrical engineering and then go to, philosophy and then, go to, history and, and I'm making these up on the spot, but even going from microbiology to computer science, right? That connection
It's huge.
right. There isn't interdisciplinary nature between academic researchers a lot of the time, right? Because they are comfortable within their own realm, and I'm generalizing, and I'm sure if this, gets out there, people will be upset with me, maybe not, maybe they'll understand, but there is this common nature for people that are experts in a field to stay within their comfort zone, right? They don't want to go relearn something and feel the student again in a field that they don't necessarily feel they need to be in, right? They'd rather stay in their field, right? So when we create these boundaries, right, it stunts the ability to innovate, right? To make connections that you would never see or be able to make without exploring new fields of study. So I think one thing to kind of push the field forward or to break through the bottleneck of these limitations is to really have next generation students, focus on interdisciplinary studies where they're studying multiple different realms of science, right, of history, of any application, right, and then integrating them, and then they'll have new insights, right? And it's I don't know. I could go on with some analogies, right, or some this idea we're building these buildings really tall, right, but the taller they get, they're less stable, right? So they fluctuate, and so you can't make them any taller. So we need to connect these buildings together so that we can continue to grow higher, right? And so these buildings, right, being specific fields of study, so we can continue shooting for the stars. But
Absolutely. So we're gonna move on to the next point here. So let's talk about one of the technologies that was in biotech that was breakthrough in the past 5 to 10 years. Is there one technology that you think has made huge breakthrough in the biotech industry, and what is it?
The first one that comes to my mind would be...
I've been talking this whole time. You guys go ahead.
No, that's for you, Rourke.
I think we should all answer that, and I'll answer last.
Are you able to hear me?
All right.
Oh, okay.
You're a little quiet.
Yes.
That's okay. You're a timid mouse.
No, I had to put my headphones on because I could barely hear you guys.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
now we can
Yeah.
hear you good. No.
So, new technology. First one that comes to my mind in the biosensing space is that of diabetics. Every time you go online, Instagram, anything like that, you'll see new technologies where someone just taps their phone up and, they have their biometrics right there, right available. And it's as quick as, here, I ate this sort of food, and now I have the results 2 minutes later. So when we think in the realm of diabetes and things of that nature, it's easy for us to explain. As a human race, it's easy for us to explain why something like that is so necessary, why that fast and consistent data acquisition is so necessary. Well, that's because, diabetes, if you don't track it right away, it could be a death sentence. But, and this is a great transition, I think, for us is we are sick care. We don't care about helping someone until, they're already sick. So like Rourke said, and that what we've talked about so many times is we want to shape and just reform the whole healthcare ideology from sick care to actual healthcare. So, in my mind, how does it hurt us to have more data within your body? How does it help us to know more about the data within your car than your own body? Your most important asset is your health. It's your health, and everything else comes under that. And, in a society right now that we live in, it's more about, providing pleasure to the individual than to provide health care. I mean, when was the last time you saw a commercial or anything that just said, I don't know, go out and go to exercise, do something healthy. You don't see stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So, I guess I'll go ahead and ask your guys' thoughts on that.
I agree with you, definitely 100%. With the, taking care of our bodies and being able to proactively monitor. I think this is the transition with all these technologies that we're having. We're able to make this transition now. Before, I don't think it was accessible. We didn't have the technologies that we needed to do that. That's why we need people like, who are willing to go out and once they make those innovations in the lab, actually to take it to market, so it actually helps the people. Because if you come up with an innovation, it stays in the lab and it's not going to help anyone else. What's the point? So keeping track of the technologies out there and how can it be used to be implemented and applied to the industry and to the people and help for the longevity of humans. What do you think, Rourke?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And to kind of go back, I guess, you ask what's the biggest breakthroughs in the last 20 years? You ask something like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was just thinking about it. So people could say a lot of things like, some hot topics like the ability to use CRISPR to do gene editing, right? That could be a huge boon for society. That's a very powerful tool. There's still a lot of work to be done to make it more targeted, where you can edit specific genes, specific cell types, right, and not have this runoff effect where you have these drastic issues. But honestly, if I was to say one of the biggest revolutions in technology is honestly advancing machine learning, right, and AI in general, because it will fundamentally, and of course we're talking about biotech and medical devices, but artificial intelligence, machine learning, a lot of deep learning neural networks that are being designed and developed, and most importantly, right, the data sets that they're being trained on are changing what it means to interact with reality, right? And when we have these things, where each person, we all have cell phones, right? And having a cell phone, this smartphone allows us to connect to information at our whim, right? We have these thumbs that can sign on to the internet and Google something, right? And extract this information. That information gives us insights that we would never have unless we had this tool, right, to get inside. And now it's going to increase that ability to extract information on an order of magnitude, because now once we start integrating our daily lives with AI models, right, and just models that are designed to do something specific for us, like Chat GPT just came out, right, and the ability to be okay, tell me about this, right, and it just tells you as an assistant, or if you were to go up to a professor, right, that's teaching you electrochemistry, and you say, I have these questions, what is this and this, and they would tell you with their expertise what you're asking. Now you can just ask this chatbot and it will tell you, but it doesn't have to be just electrochemistry, right? It could be anything, and it will give you the same quality. It's not quite there yet. There's still, right? The one that was released was a GPT 3.5. It was a beta version. 4 might be coming out soon. It might not be. Right, but as we get to more advanced chatbots where we can just tell me this, and it just gives you the best, the most advanced knowledge that you could extract from, somebody that's doing research in this realm for, 20 years, they could tell you. But now you can just instantly get that information without having the friction of doing the research and accumulating the data yourself. Now you can just get all the data you need, and then you could study it, right? So like, it's all about reducing the friction of acquisitioning information, right? And so like, as this friction reduces more and more, we can accumulate more and more information and then improve our own insights to what reality really is, right? What existence is, and how to best optimize our existence currently. So I think AI will really help us facilitate that reality, and really like that will just, like I said, it will facilitate our ability to do more, to engineer more, to build more tools, to advance and optimize more quickly, right? Iterate more quickly, and so I think. And machine learning isn't necessarily like breakthroughs in the last 20 years, but it's been advancing, exponentially. And over the last 5 years, it's really started to make that curve where it's, starting to shoot off.
It started to become more public and more mainstream. It was more private before, I would say.
Yeah. Because you mentioned in the health field too, and Rourke, you were saying how we don't have to really live in the same reality. Now we have other realities. So what came to my mind was something like the metaverse. And, something clicked in my mind that now you have entire operating rooms that are in virtual realities. And that's how people can, go and train, things like that. So that is one of the newest, and I think one of the most incredible forms of breakthrough, especially in the medical industry. In a virtual reality, you can use that to, complete an entire surgery and interact. You can extract a certain organ, you can expand, you can then see all of the metrics within that said organ. And I think it's absolutely incredible. So that's, in my mind, that's one of the best examples of human advancement that's meant for the betterment of society. One of the best examples that I can think of currently.
Have you, I came across this a few weeks ago. And I have to find, maybe we can find or put the article on the source page or the sources. But and I might be wrong on this because we have to look at this, but I'm going to say it. So Tim Cook is going to be resigning soon from Apple, right? But he says he's going to release Apple's next big thing, right? So they've been doing iPhone after iPhone after iPhone. They're on iPhone 14. They talked about, okay, they're going to release iPhone 15, but there's rumors, and I'm sure they're accurate. I mean, where Apple's getting ready to release their next innovation, right? Their next big thing, like not just iPhone after iPhone, but the thing that's going to change the market again, right? Like the iPhone did originally. And that's, like eyewear, right? So like they have a mock-up of them where you could put, like it's almost like a mask, right, over your eyes, and it has a camera in front. So it's like you can wear them for augmented reality purposes. So like AR, right? So there's VR, virtual reality, AR. But like on Cameron's point, like I think AR, if we can fully implement it as we fully implemented smartphones into our lives, it will change everything. Because now we don't have to interface with the internet using our thumbs and a little screen. We can use our whole body because we're now immersed in AR, right? And so, go ahead.
So when that it's funny how this whole conversation turned into VR and augmented reality. When first the metaverse came out, and my brain went to the idea of like how Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars, and because the environment, global warming, and how like the planet Earth might not be able to be sustainable for humans because of the global warming and a lot of stuff that's going on. What if the solution, rather than going to Mars, is basically putting a headset on? Imagine you go to work, you just wake up, put your headset on, you don't have to drive. There's no more carbon emission.
Well, we kind of do that to an extent because a lot of people work from home. So, if I'm staring at a screen all day, I wouldn't consider that living in, the reality. Go ahead.
Full disagree with that. I mean, it's okay. So I've thought about that a lot, but the question is like, okay, as a human, as a species evolving, do we want to evolve outwardly or inwardly, right? And that maybe that isn't the right word using evolve, but like, do we want to head out to the stars, expand our the number of humans out there, therefore expanding, consciousness and our ability to acquisition information. And really, like, that will just, like I said, it will facilitate our ability to do more, to engineer more, to build more tools, to advance and optimize more quickly, right? Iterate more quickly. And so I think, and machine learning isn't necessarily like breakthroughs in the last 20 years, but it's been advancing, exponentially. And over the last 5 years, it has really started to make that curve where it's, starting to shoot off.
It started to become more public and more mainstream. It was more private before, I would say.
Yeah. Because you mentioned in the health field too, and Rourke, you were saying how we don't have to really live in the same reality. Now we have other realities. So what came to my mind was something like the metaverse. And, something clicked in my mind that now you have entire operating rooms that are in virtual realities. And that's how people can, go and train, things like that. So that is one of the newest, and I think one of the most incredible forms of breakthrough, especially in the medical industry. In a virtual reality, you can use that to, complete an entire surgery and interact. You can, extract a certain organ, you can expand, you can then see all of the metrics within that said organ. And I think it's absolutely incredible. So that's, in my mind, that's one of the best examples of human advancement that's meant for the betterment of society. One of the best examples that I can think of currently.
Have you? I came across this a few weeks ago, and I have to find, maybe we can find or put the article on the source page or the sources. But so, and I might be wrong on this because we have to look at this, but I'm going to say it. So Tim Cook is going to be resigning soon from Apple, right? But he says he's going to release Apple's next big thing, right? So they've been doing iPhone after iPhone after iPhone. They're on iPhone 14. They talked about, okay, they're going to release iPhone 15, but there's rumors, and they're pretty, I'm sure they're accurate. I mean, where Apple's getting ready to release their next innovation, right? Their next big thing. Like, not just iPhone after iPhone, but the thing that's going to change the market again, right? Like the iPhone did originally. And that's, like eyewear, right? So like they have a mock-up of them where you could put, like it's almost like a mask, right, over your eyes, and it has a camera in front. So it's like you can wear them for augmented reality purposes. So like AR, right? So there's VR, virtual reality, AR. But like on Cameron's point, like I think AR, if we can fully implement it as we fully implemented smartphones into our lives, it will change everything. Because now we don't have to interface with the internet using our thumbs and a little screen. We can use our whole body because we're now immersed in AR, right? And so, go ahead.
So when that it's funny how this whole conversation turned into VR and augmented reality. When first the metaverse came out, and my brain went to the idea of like how Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars, and because the environment, global warming, and how like the planet Earth might not be able to be sustainable for humans because of the global warming and a lot of stuff that's going on. What if the solution, rather than going to Mars, is basically putting a headset on? Imagine you go to work, you just wake up, put your headset on, you don't have to drive. There's no more carbon emission.
Well, we kind of do that to an extent, because a lot of people work from home. So, if I'm staring at a screen all day, I wouldn't consider that living in, the reality. Go ahead.
Full disagree with that. I mean, it's okay. So I've thought about that a lot, but the question is like, okay, as a human, as a species evolving, do we want to evolve outwardly or inwardly, right? And that maybe that isn't the right word using evolve, but like, do we want to head out to the stars, expand our, the number of humans out there, therefore expanding, consciousness and our ability to acquisition information, right? Because like each one of us is a information acquisition machine, right? We have these sensing organs that acquire information, it processes with our brain, in our brain, and then we output some action that is based on the information. So we're like absorbing, creating, outputting information, right, processing it. And so by the act of doing that as an individual node, it's creating this new information, right, or processing it. And so when you have large populations doing this intermingling this information, right, you create a society that can do great things, right? So like by increasing the population, we can increase our collective intelligence and become and accelerate evolution, right? So that's the idea of like going to stars, like becoming multiplanetary, right? Like is allowing our species to continue to evolve, or consciousness to continue to evolve. And the question is, okay, like, well, what if we just went and made our own universe? Well, then you ask, like, let's look down that trajectory, right? So we get to a point where we put on our headsets, right? That's probably not too far away. You know, we put on our headsets, we interact in this metaverse, you know, in this virtual reality, you know, but like you still, as a physical organism, like a physical system existing in physical reality, have to survive in physical reality, right? So like, how do you cohabitate physical reality and virtual reality? Yeah. Well, then maybe we design advanced systems that allow us to exist stagnantly, like where we're, you know, because we have.
Think of it. Well, at some point with VR, you could like. VR would allow us and would be the closest option for us right now to teleport. You know, if your whole life is in the VR, and you put the headset, or at some point you might not even be a headset. It could be like just a chip or something, where somehow you just log in and out.
You would be completely. We would integrate technology with our organism so that we are we can be physically immersed and we could feel everything. So, right? Like we're not. Everything that we experience in physical reality could be felt in virtual reality because the technology is integrated, right, and allows you to do that. But you still have to keep this organism alive, right? So then I get back to the point, like we could create systems that allow us to be alive while experiencing physical or virtual reality, right? Like, I mean, you think about just the simple technologies that allow coma patients to stay alive, right? But if you propagate that technology down the line where it's like, now you're in a vat, you could keep yourself, you know, in homeostasis, in stasis, really, forever, right? As long as you knew how to, you know, if you understood every mechanism that caused aging and illness, right, and we found those cures, you know, you could create artificial systems to keep you alive. And then you're in this virtual reality, right?
And especially
how do we expand? Like, how do we facilitate or leverage the idea of evolution, right? Whereas like evolution is this idea that like the outliers have a trait that allows them to propagate that trait and facilitate evolution. If we designed a system to keep us in stasis, right? Because randomness, like stochastic nature of evolution, is what propagates itself forward. So like if we create a system that keeps us in stasis, living in virtual reality, then like we can't evolve. We won't evolve. It's going against evolution if we system this. So like I am a proponent that's totally against going into a metaverse, even though it's happening, right? I believe we have to go out to the stars. We have to expand the population of physical organisms outward, right? Or we'll just diminish away. We'll you know, I mean, because like think about it, like how do you reproduce, right? Like if you're fully immersed in VR, you're going to have to create a system that can facilitate reproduction, right? So it's artificial reproduction. I mean, we can make new babies, right? But like when we are the ones trying to like design, you know, our system, then we like don't take into account that like randomness, right? Noise facilitates expansion, right? So like then we're like, you know, we design something that keeps us locked into our moment, our state. And so like, you know, I think it's really dangerous if we go that way.
I agree.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, but I also don't see the metaverse being as bad as you think, as if it's an N-word, because, you know, as you said, if we have like this integration between the virtual reality and our human body and like all of our organs, basically we feel everything. I think that would also allow us to experience certain things that you couldn't experience in the normal reality or in real life. So I think they're important in both ways, whether inward or I don't think metaverse is inward. I think I understand the concept, but I don't think it's as dangerous as you say. I think it also
And
could
I'm not
kind of a gate to a different.
Yeah, I'm not
Go ahead.
proposing that like the idea of this metaverse that we think of it in like 20 years is a bad thing, right? Like I think AR, as I was just expressing, like the ability to augment reality to our advantage will allow us to reduce the friction from acquisition information. I think it's good. I think having the ability to connect on a metaverse, right? Like being able to log on, go in, go out, like having a cohabitation between physical reality and virtual reality is okay, right? But I'm thinking like let's propagate this idea 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, right? Like not 20, right? But like where does the trajectory of evolution go if we're focusing on inward, like creating new realities virtually, right? I mean, you can go to the idea of like the Matrix, right? That's like an obvious like example of like where it could end up going, right? And of course, like I'm not like creating a conspiracy theory or like saying like it's terrible. Like I think that there's a lot of we wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't advantageous, right? Like I think the next 50 years is totally fine.
So,
I mean, I think, but like I also believe.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just to make a connection. The whole talk here is biotechnology, so it's the combination of biology, a living thing, and technology is a man-made mechanism for the advancement of the human race, what have you. I just thought about implantables, which is a data acquisition tool, which, that's what technology is. Data acquisition is to an extent. It takes in technology or data, processes it, and spits out something that is, functionable for us as humans. So, we already are, I guess, the tip of that iceberg with implantables because now it's something that's within you. And Rourke, you were talking about a chip or something like that, it connects you to, you have freedom over your human body, the biology, but you also have access to the technology and the AI, things like that. So, is this the end goal of what biotechnology is? Is the end goal the absolute conversion or connection between biology and technology? And
I mean, I would say I would say yes. I would say that we have been integrating new tools into our lives since we left the Sahara, right? The plains of northern Africa. Like we started creating new tools and integrating into our lives, and advancing new tools and integrating into our lives, and advancing new tools and integrating into our lives, right? To the point now we have smartphones that are integrated into our lives that we need constantly. And we're creating wearables that are going to be integrated into our lives, then implantables that are integrated into our lives, right? And I'm, a big proponent or interested in next generation brain computer interfaces, right? And that's just at the tip. We're still in research phase right now. There's some cool stuff happening. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but I do think that the next step is going to be brain computer interfaces where you don't have to integrate with information with your thumbs or with your eyes or with your hands. It's just already there, right? You're already extremely connected to everything, right? Well, then that unlocks Pandora's box because now everything that everyone knows is instantly already a part of you. And so now we're like this hyper global, connective, right? Where we're like all the same thing. And this is, okay, I'm like always shooting to the end, right? Like if everyone has a brain computer interface and everyone has all the information of everyone else, then
so if we all have the same basically database, which is all the information we know, it's all that data in our brain, and we all have the same thing, how would we innovate after this? We're all the same. We're all thinking of the same idea.
We go out, right? We go up and we go out. I mean, like, I think about like the evolution of intelligence, right? And I think of it as like the ability to acquisition and process and create new information based on like the ability to like, okay, we're each node creating, sensing our environment. So I think like, okay, 250,000 years ago, we're in small clans of our immediate family, and we process, what my neighbor or what my uncle knows, or my dad or my siblings, because they have this 100 mile radius of exploration, and so that's the whole world
Yep.
now. But if we, and this is this interesting evolution,
Exposure, basically. So you're saying
right,
like we would
then
have
you
more
take
exposure.
another clan, right? Another clan that doesn't speak the same language as you. It has different viewpoints, right? And then you go to war, and somebody wins, right, and then conquers. But the population kind of integrates together. So now you have a
Yep.
population of 200, 300 people that are integrating over generations, right, until they face another clan, have a war, integrate, and it's like this constant integration of nodes of information processors that like creates and expands intelligence, because now you have more nodes in the network that can process and exchange information. And so as the nodes increase in that network, you have a larger propagation of intelligence and innovation because you have these more nodes in the population. So it's like with the increased population, and specifically like it has to be the density of population increases with intelligence. So therefore we need to increase the density of populations. And to do that, we have to go outward, right? So, like, I think we can integrate these technologies, but expand outward and navigate. Because, like, I mean, the human history of humanity is what, right? Expansion, exploration,
Yep.
exploration. That's all we're just creatures. We're organisms that
Yep.
innately do this thing, right? And so, like, I think we should continue doing that to the stars, right? To the moon, to Mars.
But again, with all these technologies and all these things that we talk about, there's a question of ethics. Are those innovations and technologies, are they ethical? I mean, you might think it's a good thing for humanity as a whole, but some people don't want to be a part of that. How would you mitigate through that? And I mean, that's why there's regulations. Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of these technologies. What?
I was going to say, yeah, regulation, sure. But honestly, and I don't know enough about it yet, but like there's this idea where you can do decentralized computing and storage of information that's cryptographically secured for exchange, right? And like that's like the blockchain. Yeah. This is the whole talk about Web 3.0 is like decentralized information where like you're reading, you're writing, you're owning. So all the information that is being processed with these hardware tools could be owned in the software space by you, and you choose to exchange and do whatever with it, but you're the owner of it, not any other company that sells you the hardware. So I think like integrating next generation protocols, like what a protocol, right, is just how we exchange information and who's the owner of it.
Yep.
As we integrate these next generation protocols, we can have it where the node, like the human, is the owner of their information, and they can then integrate these technologies if they want to, right? But honestly, like, having a smartphone is way more advantageous than having no phone or
absolutely
phone, right? You can do way more with it. So like people are going to choose to integrate these new technologies because they can advance their ability to optimize their existence.
And that comes with the newer generations, because our parents' generation are the generation that was first exposed to computers or in phones, and then you have our kids are going to be growing up with all these devices. So for them, they're going to be way more comfortable with the advancement of those technologies than maybe us or the generation before us. So I think with generation, that's why in every generation there will be a huge spike and breakthroughs of innovations, because the regulations might get a little bit different, and there will be more regulation protocols for certain things. I don't think it's going to be the same, because in order to move forward, you're going to have to come up with newer protocols. You're going to have to come up with and the whole society will have different views. So what we might think is invasive now might not be as invasive in the next generation. So I think that's part of it. And I think we've covered a lot of topics in this talk. We got distracted a little bit, but I liked how we ended up talking about blockchain and virtual reality, because that's definitely something that's where the future is headed. So in conclusion, thank you for all of our listeners. And in future talks, we're going to be talking more about the history of biotechnology, and we're going to talk about different examples of startups, and we're more deep look at those different areas that we went over, whether blockchain or virtual reality, or maybe lab on a chip or organ on a chip, and all these terms and what they mean and how they can be applied in enhancing the human life and increasing the longevity of humans. There's a lot of topics to cover, and especially what Rourke said is the whole different, make it all connected. All these different innovations, whether in software, medical, or mechanical, or all these different areas that have different innovations. What if they could come together and there'll be more connection, more network, and more exchange of information, and how that can be used in enhancing the human life. So thank you guys for this great discussion. You guys want to add anything?
I'd say thank you, Ali, for moderating, and I look forward to our next session.
Thank you.
I can keep talking for days, probably.
Yeah.